You know, when you talk about running an organization, running a business, some of the basic things you need to really think about is leadership. You know, leadership is about directing a plan. You can tell people to do things. You can make requests of a lot of people, but unless you have a plan, it's tough to lead them. Leadership involves giving it direction and having the people involved with that process buy into it and be accountable for it. It's been my experience in the past that you need to get people involved. They need to understand the direction you're going in, because for them to feel a part of it, they have to understand where you're going and they have to believe the direction you're going is right. You have to make sure that they feel they're being treated the way you expect them to treat you. And you know, that's one of the biggest things I've always tried to live by, is the fact that, you know, as a team, everybody on that team feels that they have a voice and they have the respect of everybody involved with it. We do things on a day-to-day basis, and you take a lot of things for granted. Some of your decisions are very good. Some of them you wonder why you ever made them. But if you step back, evaluate them, and make sure that the next decision you make is based on the lessons you learned from the last one, you'll continue to move forward. And probably the biggest thing about being an effective leader is you have to take perspective on that it's an evolving process. The dynamics of leadership, they change. You have to change as your organization change, as your personnel change, and really as your client base changes. Because if you can't adapt, you will never have a plan that's effective. And without an effective plan, I go back to what I originally said. You can't lead without a plan.
Being dean requires that I manage a lot of things on my desk every day. I have faculty, I have students, I have local business leaders coming in to see me. But if I did only what was on my desk every day, I wouldn't be a very good leader. And something I learned the very first job I had when I got out of college. I joined the U.S. Postal Service as a management trainee. I was working in Washington, D.C. And I was part of this young group of college-educated people, and we were put in working in postal installations around the country. There was a lot of nervousness at this time. There was uncertainty for managers, there was uncertainty for labor, and didn't make doing anything together very effective. I worked at one point on assignment to a very bright young assistant postmaster general. He would come into post offices and get everybody together, the first line supervisors, the plant managers, the union directors, the union bosses, and the workers. And he would paint pictures of what we could do together. He was so effective. Everybody from the least postal clerk to the postmaster would stand up and applaud him. And I learned a lot about leadership from him. He basically told us that management wasn't going to do it by themselves, and labor couldn't guarantee a future for themselves if they didn't work together with management. The things that I learned from this bright young guy was, one, you had to take people from where they were at. He spoke from the heart and in a way that people could understand. Secondly, he painted a picture of where we were going. He talked about the future, not the distant future, but the 3 to 5 to 10 year future. what kind of an operation we could have, what kind of service we could provide, what kind of competitor we could be now that we were going into a more competitive environment. And it was a vision that encompassed all of us, and we could all find our place in this vision. That's what I learned early on about leadership. You have to take people from where they are standing, make them feel as though you are speaking to them, and then take them to a place where they could go, to speak to them about a future that's better but doable. I think subcontractors and contractors are a very special kind of business. It's a deal-based business. It's, does this deal work for me and my company now? Is it going to make money for me and my workers? But if you only focus on the deal today, you aren't getting yourself ready for the future. It's important that you learn about new techniques, about new technologies, about your competitors and where the region you're working in is going, so that the decisions and the technologies and the techniques that your company does today aren't the only ones you know. You have to put a little bit of effort into figuring out where your market's going, where the technologies in your field are going, so that you're ready to install that new kind of glass or to use this new kind of paint, what the regulations are, and get yourself set up for future business, not just the business today.
As a young athlete participating in team sports, one of the most important lessons I learned, although it was a very hard lesson, was that I was only as good as those around me. The outcome was evaluated on the team's performance, not just mine. And I had coaches who would always work with everybody, and I couldn't understand, like, why would you waste your time? Why would you put time into that person? And it only over time did I come to understand that it's the quality of every performer on the team that would have us be champions. I participated on, 2 and 9 teams, and I was on state championship teams. The thing that I carried with me from my participation in sports and from working with coaches was that you have to be relentlessly committed to the success of every single individual. And now, as a superintendent, what I think about is, how do I ensure that every person who works in this district is successful? And I take full responsibility for understanding what the barriers are to their success, what are the resources, information, support they need to have efficacy and be successful and have a feeling of being productive and committed to the larger goals of the district. And they have to have that feeling, and it's my job as the principal leader of the organization to find what it is that those people are working on, where they're getting stuck, and to take responsibility for their success and to try to remove barriers, and also to do the personal reflection, my own kind of work. Where are the places that I get stuck? What are the things that get in my way of helping people in my organization be successful? So I have to be deeply passionate and committed to my own learning. And when there are places that I run into or ways that I get stuck in terms of my ability to support a staff member, I got to do that reflection, and I got to take full responsibility for my own growth to make sure that they're more effective. And watching coaches work with a range of athletes and everything that they bring to the table, I was really blessed and fortunate to have some extraordinary mentors. And then moving into the professional world, I've always gravitated to people who have a concept of team. And when you've been right next to somebody, if they don't do their job, it doesn't matter how well you do your job. And so I've tried to infuse that sense that we are only as good as we can be if we work, if we're all good, if we all are successful. And it's not about creating my own area of success over here and too bad they're not as good. It's literally, how good can we all be together? What can I do to help that other person be the most successful person that they've ever been?
Regardless of whether or not there is an upturn or a downturn in the economy, effective management and good, solid leadership is absolutely critical. Whether it's an army, a city, a university, or a painting crew, each of us has a defined role. If any of these groups are to be successful and to be sustained, it takes leaders, it takes managers, and it takes players. In small groups, people may have dual roles. The manager or one of the crew may also be the leader. The responsibilities and expectation of each role are different. The leader must provide direction in formulating long and short-term policy and strategies for ensuring that the organization or company is successful and will endure. The person must have a vision and must communicate it to his or her team. The leader must have integrity and the skills necessary to instill confidence in those whom they lead. Now, the role of the manager is critical but different. Just as Nicole Bickert mentioned, the leader must provide direction. The manager is the person who makes the roadmap, the person who is the one who will get you where you need to go. If you're planning on a vacation in Oregon and you use a map to Arizona, it probably won't get you there. The manager is the person who makes sure that the right crew paints the right bridge with the right paint and has the right permits. While it's critical to have a vision and to use that vision as your guidepost, sometimes situations change. So really good leaders and managers listen to their crews. They listen to their team. And if the vision or the job change, they communicate not just that change, but why they're changing and how that change will affect their team or their crew. It's called teamwork. And just as contractors may have to play all three roles, the team may have to step up at some time as well.
In talking about leadership, the keys to me have been communication, and communicating, being direct with what you expect from people is the obvious point. Most importantly, though, is listening. I think that's a key form of communication. I learned when I took over as president of our local Little League, that I was surrounded by a group of volunteers, people who wanted to be there and work, put in their time. And it became apparent that I needed to let these people do their job. Delegation was easy to do. The leadership role consisted mostly of helping steer the ship, keep us on course, and have an open mind for everybody. I think people need someone to bounce things off, and someone that has the common objective of the collective group becomes very important. So surrounding yourself with key people, letting them do their jobs, and providing guidance is something I took away from that experience. I think when things are good, everyone likes to be part of the team. Then again, on the downside, it's probably when leadership is most important, keeping morale up and the direction there, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So I think leadership applies in both situations. It has been my experience that teamwork seems to be the underlying common denominator in both my experience with running a volunteer organization such as Little League, or directing a business such as our painting contracting. Teamwork is essential, and it kind of revolves around key leadership.
Someone recently asked me what it takes to be an effective leader. So I started thinking about it, and the first thing that came to mind was someone that I've always aspired to be like, a great leader, my mother, who encouraged me to get involved, but not just to get involved, to be the leader, to surround myself with capable, strong people, and to be a team player, always be part of what's going on. Hard work is very important, and most of all, what I learned from my mom is not only make everyone work as hard as you do, but have some fun. Make sure everyone has some fun in what they're doing and that they feel like they've accomplished something. The second person that came to mind was a teacher that I had in high school who taught me the value of positive strokes or positive reinforcement. There's always a time when you're a leader where you have to discipline someone or change a policy or procedure that doesn't make everybody real happy. I always approach these kind of things with constructive criticism and always end with positive reinforcement so that when someone walks away from talking with me, they feel good about the future, that things are going to move forward, and that everything is going well with their job. Now there's one thing when you're a leader that no one's going to teach you how to do. You have to learn this by yourself, and it's the ability to make the hard decisions. You know, the ones where not everyone's going to be happy, it's going to be sitting on your shoulders, it's a little lonely during those times, but rule of thumb for me, always investigate the situation thoroughly and make sure that whoever I'm making the decision for, whether it be the painting company, the associations that I've been president of, PDCA and CPFC, that it's good for the whole of the company or association. I have to be positive in my decision that there will be good that comes out of it, that it will enable the situation to move forward. That's the hard part. That's a hard one. So be a team player, work hard, but make sure to have some fun, and always have positive reinforcement. That's how I'm a leader.